Can you imagine that your soul chose your family before you were born? Not randomly, but with the precision of a master artist. Your soul saw the challenges ahead and decided, this is where I will grow, this is where I will awaken. Yet, here you are, questioning why you were placed in a family that feels like a battlefield. Why were you raised in an environment that chipped away at your spirit instead of protecting it? Being born into a toxic family is not a punishment or karmic retribution. It's a test, a profound initiation. Toxic families are like fire. They burn, they hurt, and they leave scars. But they also forge. They temper your soul like steel, stripping away illusions and forcing you to confront the raw truth of the human experience. They are the training ground for those meant to break cycles, transcend suffering, and transform ancestral pain. The toxicity you were born into is not random, it's generational. It's the accumulation of unhealed wounds, unspoken truths, and unconscious patterns passed down through your lineage. And you were born to stop it. You were not born to fit in. You were born to rise above. But to break a cycle, you must first experience it. You cannot heal what you don't understand, and you cannot rise above what you refuse to face. Toxic families do not just wound us, they mirror us. They reveal the hidden aspects of ourselves that we are too afraid to acknowledge. The dysfunction you see in them exists within you in some form. This is why their presence is a gift. Through the fire of family pain, you are given the opportunity to transform, to heal, and to rewrite the destiny of your lineage. But let's not romanticize the struggle. Being born into a toxic family is one of the hardest paths a soul can take. It requires immense strength, resilience, and courage. It demands that you face rejection, betrayal, and sometimes even abandonment. Yet, every time you respond with love instead of hate, understanding instead of judgment, you break the cycle. The key to transformation lies in perspective. What if your family's toxicity is not a reflection of your worth, but of their pain? What if their inability to love you properly is not because you are unlovable, but because they never learned how to love themselves? The moment you stop seeing them as enemies and start seeing them as wounded souls, everything shifts. Your family's toxicity is not your burden to carry. It is your invitation to heal. But here's the truth. You cannot heal them. You can only heal yourself. And as you do, you create a ripple effect that changes everything. You don't have to fight the darkness, just shine your light. The moment you stop resisting your path and start embracing it, you step into your power. You were not born into a toxic family to be broken. You were born to rise, to heal, and to awaken. Pain leaves scars, but it also leaves openings for light, awareness, and transformation. Before you see the gift, you must confront the wound. And once you do, you will realize you were never a victim. You were always the chosen one. Every wound carries a lesson, every scar tells a story, and every pain holds the potential for growth. When you reflect on the pain caused by your family, what emotions rise to the surface? Anger, resentment, sadness. These emotions are not just reactions, they are reflections, guiding you to deeper truths about yourself. The healing journey begins when you recognize that the pain inflicted on you was never about you. It was about them, their wounds, their fears, their limitations. But at some point, you internalized it, carrying their pain as your own. This is where the real work begins, the process of untangling yourself from the narrative your family imposed on you. It means reclaiming your identity, your worth, and your power. How do you heal from wounds so deep they feel woven into your very being? How do you break free from patterns passed down through generations? It starts with awareness. The way your family treated you is not a reflection of your value. Their toxicity is not your destiny. You were not born to repeat the cycle. You were born to end it. But awareness alone is not enough. True transformation happens when you take responsibility, not for their actions, but for your healing. The moment you stop waiting for them to change, to apologize, to validate you, that is the moment you set yourself free. Some people will never change. Some wounds will never be acknowledged. Some apologies will never come. And that's okay. Your healing does not depend on them, it depends on you. Forgiveness is not about excusing their behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of anger, resentment, and bitterness. It's about saying, I will no longer allow your pain to become my pain. I will no longer let your actions dictate my life. This is where the true gift is revealed. As you heal, you awaken. As you release the pain, you reclaim your power. As you break free from your family's dysfunction, you step into the fullness of who you are meant to be. But let's be honest, this process is messy. Healing is not linear. There will be days when the weight of your past feels unbearable, moments when you doubt your own strength. In those times, remember this: you were chosen for this path, not because it's easy, but because you are capable. Not because you deserve suffering, but because you have the power to transform suffering into strength, pain into purpose, wounds into wisdom. What if the very things you see as your greatest wounds are actually your greatest strengths? What if rejection taught you self-love? What if neglect taught you independence? What if pain taught you compassion? The true alchemy of transformation lies in turning darkness into light, pain into purpose, inherited cycles into liberation. When you heal, you don't just free yourself, you shift the energy of your entire lineage. Your healing creates a ripple effect, showing others that freedom is possible. Breaking free is not just about cutting ties, it's about liberating yourself from the internal chains of your past. The real work begins when you stop reacting to your family's dysfunction and start living in alignment with your truth. But here's the challenge. The chains that bind you are not external. They are the beliefs you inherited, the patterns you unconsciously repeat, the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what you are worth. Awareness is the first step. Ask yourself, what patterns from my family am I still repeating in my own life? What limiting beliefs did I inherit from their words or actions? What fears and insecurities am I holding on to because of how they treated me? Until you confront these internalized narratives, you cannot break free from them. But when you do, you reclaim your power, not just for yourself, but for the generations that follow. Because true freedom is not just about escaping the past, it's about creating a new future. Awareness is just the beginning. The next step is healing. But healing is not about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you were before the wounds. It's about peeling back layers of conditioning, stripping away false beliefs, and reconnecting with the truth of who you are. Healing is not linear. It's messy, uncomfortable, and often painful. It's the process of unlearning everything you thought you knew about yourself and rebuilding from the ground up. It requires 3 things: self-love, self-compassion, and self-discipline. Self-love is the foundation, the radical act of choosing yourself, even when no one else does. It means honoring your needs, setting boundaries, and recognizing your worth, no matter how your family treated you. It's the realization that you are enough as you are, without needing to prove anything to anyone. But self-love isn't always easy, especially when you've been conditioned to believe you're unworthy. That's where self-compassion comes in, the voice inside that reminds you, it's okay to feel hurt, it's okay to feel angry, it's okay to not have it all figured out. Healing is a journey, not a destination, and you don't have to do it perfectly. And then there's self-discipline, the part that makes healing real. Because let's be honest, healing is hard work. It requires you to show up for yourself every day, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's painful, even when it feels like nothing is changing. It requires you to make choices that align with your higher self, even when old patterns try to pull you back. This is why surrounding yourself with the right tools and knowledge is so powerful. Whether it's deepening your self-awareness, building emotional resilience, or learning how to rewire your subconscious beliefs, the right resources make a difference. That's why I've put together a list of transformative books and programs that can support your growth. If you're ready to take control of your healing journey, check them out in the description below. Ask yourself, what would my life look like if I lived every day as though I were worthy of love, respect, and happiness? What choices would you make? What boundaries would you set? What relationships would you let go of? Because that's the essence of breaking free. It's not about changing your family, it's about changing yourself. Breaking free doesn't mean abandoning your family. It doesn't mean cutting them off unless that's necessary for your well-being. Breaking free means detaching from their energy, their expectations, and their narratives. It means loving them from a place of wholeness, not obligation. It also means seeing them for who they truly are: flawed, wounded, imperfect human beings, and choosing to rise above their pain instead of being consumed by it. When you do this, something incredible happens. You become a mirror. Your healing becomes a reflection of what's possible, inspiring others, even if they never acknowledge it. You may never hear them say it, but your transformation plants seeds of change in ways you can't yet see. Maybe not today, maybe not even in this lifetime, but every time you rise above the cycle, you shift something in the collective. Let me ask you this. What if your greatest act of love for your family is not fixing them, but becoming the fullest, freest version of yourself? What if your healing is the very thing that plants the seed of change in them, even if it takes years or lifetimes to bloom? This is the path of the chosen ones. It's not an easy path, it's not glamorous, but it's a path of purpose, transformation, and liberation. Your family's toxicity is not your destiny. It's your training ground. It's the fire that forges you. It's the soil in which your soul grows. Every time you choose to rise above it, every time you choose to heal, every time you choose to love yourself in the face of dysfunction, you are fulfilling your purpose as a cycle breaker. You were not born into a toxic family by accident. You were born into it because you were strong enough to transcend it, wise enough to learn from it, and brave enough to heal it. And as you walk this path, remember, you are not alone. There are millions of chosen ones out there, just like you, breaking cycles, healing wounds, and rewriting their destinies. Together, we are creating a new world, one where love, compassion, and truth are the foundation.